Coming up on Tech News today, ransomware comes to OS X, how V2V will improve autonomous vehicle technology, Google hires the creator of 4chan, the people behind Peeple have released it to the people, and more. Tech News today is next.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com. Hi, everybody. It's time for our annual audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It helps us understand our audience better, know what you like and don't like, how you listen to the show. It also helps us tell advertisers what kind of people listen. But I promise you, your feedback is always kept personally anonymous. All you have to do is visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It'll just take a few minutes, and it'll help us make Twit even better. We really appreciate your support and any help you can give us. twit.tv/survey.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1464, recorded Monday, March 7th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at freshbooks.com/TNT.
And by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT.
And by the Ring video doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/TNT. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about all the news and technology with people who are enamored with technology.
Are you using a thesaurus at this point?
No,
you have
just
to
the
be.
Thesaurus in my head.
Okay.
I think about it when I wake up. What adjective am I going to use? Enamored is the one that fits our guest today.
That's today.
I am Megan Morrone.
And I am Jason Howell, introducing to the show and welcoming back, actually, Allison Sheridan of the NozillaCast and Chit Chat Across the Pond. How's it going, Allison?
Hey, it's going great. This is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. We've actually got a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about. Some days are a little slow news day. I feel like today was like one of those days where we're getting pummeled. Just
yes, exactly.
Back and forth. With
and
news.
Are you enamored with technology, Allison? I don't want to.
I actually am. Jason knows this. I don't listen to music. I only listen to tech podcasts. So that's what I do for fun.
I'd say that's pretty enamorful.
Yeah. And you have this amazing, I know you went to CES with your husband and you have this amazing picture of you guys just jumping in the air. Where were you when you took that picture?
Oh, that was so cool. That was a Nikon booth where they had 64 digital SLRs all pointed at the center, and you jump in the air and they take the picture at the same time, and you get this 360 picture you can spin around, and we're just like the cutest little dorks, doing it together. It was wonderful.
I think I found it. There you go, Anthony. I'll go ahead and put that in the doc. It's right underneath. We've got to see this because that's a pretty awesome picture.
No, you got to spin it.
Yes. Oh, and you can spin it around. There we go.
Great. Yeah. I would say that you two are enamored with technology.
That's awesome. It's like you've been matrixed.
Exactly. But look at those cameras.
That's pretty cool.
Actually, I said 64. That's got to be more than that, doesn't it?
That looks like a lot more than that.
164?
Wow.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Neat. I want to be matrixed someday.
Cute little nerdlets we are.
Excellent. Well, you are at the right place, Allison. We are all nerdlets here. All right, let's do this. Hear ye, all you Mac users who thought that your amazing machines were incapable of such tricky insecurities as ransomware. That might have been the case up until now, but it's time to tweak your perceptions. A new piece of fully functional ransomware called Keranger or Key Ranger, I'm not really quite sure, has been discovered in the wild. It's a first for OS X, according to Palo Alto Network's researchers. There's been at least one other example discovered last year, but it wasn't operational. Key Ranger is. So that's the big difference here. User, as is usually the case with something like this, a user downloads or installs an infected program. And in the case of this, 3 days later, it sits inactive for 3 days. And then after that amount of time, it phones home, sending the Mac's model name and UUID, to servers through the Tor network. Then it encrypts files on the infected computer and asks basically for a Bitcoin in order to unlock those files. So this kind of stuff, I mean, has plagued, PCs for decades, basically. And here we are. It's starting to kind of roll into the Mac world. Allison, are you afraid?
Well, I got to ask one question. As is true with many of these things for Windows users, it happens to be a slightly dodgy way that you would end up getting this, that the tool that got infected was a tool to help you access things on BitTorrent. And I know, and I have gotten my Linux distributions through it isn't just Tor, right? I thought it was through BitTorrent.
Mm-hmm. The transmission BitTorrent client installer.
Right.
Version
Right,
2.90.
Right. So, I mean, you could be going there legitimately getting Linux distributions with transmission, but probably not. Is there any hope? I mean, I'm trying to find some silver lining that it's only when you go to dodgy places you get this.
Well, I mean,
You're saying that people asked for it?
No, deserved it? No.
Well, no, I mean, in this case, actually, what it is transmission is a BitTorrent client. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you're going there to download the installer, essentially, and this version 2.90 is the infected installer, when you install that, then the kind of 3-day thing happens, and then what do you know? You've been served.
It doesn't actually have anything to do with where you went with it. And
Exactly.
What you went and got. Only had to do with it.
Yeah, not in this case. Although that is so often the story that we hear, right? Where you go to some sort of, a P2P site, essentially, transferring files between people, and it's not very easy to check the authenticity. Often, you're trading in files that are illicit in some way, and so that's usually the case. But this kind of ties in with a story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it was an installation of Linux, an actual ISO file for a Linux install that also had an insecurity with it. So, this is essentially, you think you're installing the right thing. This happens to be an open source piece of software, but it turns out it has this nasty thing underneath.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that the average person is going to use, probably. I mean, 6,500 people downloaded it before it was killed off. So, I mean, it wasn't, this isn't like crazy widespread. I do think the headlines might be more than, trying to sell this as something bigger than it really is.
But if it's the first time that ransomware has been seen and actually active on the Mac, on the Macintosh, I don't know. I think that's kind of a big deal because it kind of puts at least a little bit of a lie to the idea, and I think it's a very widespread belief that Mac users are somewhat, immune to insecurities like this, because that just doesn't happen on the Mac OS,
I think part of that is exacerbated by the smug faces that Mac people like me would often make in the past of saying, well, we don't get viruses, and so it doesn't have to be a big one for people to go see. But personally, I've been running antivirus on my Mac for several years now because I know that mistakes get made in code and bad things can come down. I mean, that's just a fact of life.
Sure.
I also think there are worse problems with phishing now. I mean, people turning over information that they shouldn't anyway, social engineering, and that can happen on any operating system.
We are the weakest link.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's some U.S. Supreme Court versus Apple news that doesn't have anything to do with encryption. Apple has lost its appeal in the $450 million ebook price-fixing case. According to Bloomberg, justices turned away Apple's appeal without comment and decided the case in favor of those who sued Apple for knowingly conspiring with book publishers to raise the prices of ebooks. This original ruling was handed down in the fall of 2013, and it sounds like it is going to stand.
This is one of those cases that just has lived on, and I feel like it just kind of bubbles up for air and then goes back down. Just makes me realize, like in the case of stories like this, how the penalties don't outweigh the kind of potential upside to taking a risk along these lines. I'm not one to say whether Apple and the publishers knew what they were doing in this regard. You can go ahead and fill in the blanks as far as that's concerned, but it doesn't. In a case like this, like $450 million, kind of a drop in the bucket for Apple. I don't know. It just feels like sometimes it's worth taking the risk when you're a company like Apple to do something like this. Because hey, if you get away with it for long enough, it might actually be be some sort of reward, even if you're caught eventually and you have to pay a price.
I think this one was a little complicated too, because a lot of us looked at it as like, well, yeah, but we want that. The things that they were accused of doing. It was like, well, wait a minute. The way the prices were done before, we didn't really like the way that was going, and the prices have dropped since then. And I don't know if that's directly correlated, but that makes it a little more complicated because there was some sympathy, at least from the user perspective.
Yeah, I think this has something to do with the hubris of Steve Jobs also. I mean, he asked book publishers to change how books were priced to help them promote the iPad. And, it was sort of just like he thought he could do things like that. And there is, there's such a thing as price fixing. It is. I think this is an interesting case because it's, it's a Supreme Court case and it's pretty cut and dry. You can't do it.
But at the same time, it's the publishers that were agreeing to change the price of their goods. Like, there's something to be said for that, right? Like, if I make something, I should be able to choose how I price it, right?
Well, you can't all get together and choose that it's going to be the same price.
Why not? They didn't all get together. Amazon wasn't in on it, but I guess that's the point, right? And Amazon was actually very much so pushing for this, even though they had to charge more in the long run because of all of this, and they're actually refunding portions to their users as well as a result.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you've been itching to get in on Google's cell phone service called Project Fi, you don't need one of those pesky invites anymore. Google has opened up the service to anyone. That is, of course, as long as you're in the United States and you have a Nexus device. You can also grab yourself, by the way, a Nexus 5X for $199 when you buy and activate through Project Fi. That's $150 off if you decide to go with Project Fi. And so, I mean, obviously, I'm on Android. I have a Nexus device, so I could do this if I wanted to. I had the opportunity. I actually passed on it because I'm always in Petaluma. Like, the benefit to me, like, this is really good for travelers and stuff, but the benefit for me was just kind of low compared to what I pay for T-Mobile. You are both on iOS. Is this something that you would like to get in on eventually? I'm not sure that will happen anytime soon because, like I said, it's locked into Nexus devices right now, but I don't know. Is there anything appealing about this from the other side?
Well,
I tried to jump in on it. I was all excited. Oh, it must be crazy good. It's from Google. It's called Google Fi. I'm going to go sign up. And I didn't actually read what it was about, but it was, you know how you get when something is rare? Oh, I got to have it. Because everybody wanted. And so I signed up and they wrote to me and I said, oh, I have to buy a Nexus phone to do this.
Yeah.
What are the big advantages? One of the things I see in the show notes is that unused data is refunded to you. So that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really, there's a few major advantages about Project Fi in the sense that it works with T-Mobile and Sprint. So it basically chooses the better network for you based on where you happen to be at that moment and does kind of like a hot switch over and, supposedly very seamless. I haven't used it in action, but I'm told that it's a pretty seamless switch. It also does automatic switching over to certain qualified public Wi-Fi hotspots in an effort to kind of like, pull down the amount of data that you're actually using. $20 a month kind of flat fee to get in plus $10 per gigabyte per month. And if you don't use as much as you paid for, yes, at the end, you kind of get it refunded and you can kind of fold that into the next month's amount. So they do some kind of interesting different things as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it seems like I pay a lot every month for my 3 phones and my family on Sprint. But to pay less would be wonderful.
Sure.
But yeah, in terms of getting the Wi-Fi, the speed, that's not really a problem that I have. Well, Medium's co-founder Ev Williams, who has also founded Blogger, has told the BBC that they plan to monetize the site within the next few months through sponsored content. Now, this might make the website even more confusing to people who don't understand that there's no editorial board. I've been talking to Jason about Medium. I'm like, it's interesting. I feel like people don't really understand when they see something that was on Medium. It's just a publishing platform. There's no one saying this is no editorial board, there's no bias. But then at the same time, there's a lot of companies that will, like Google, Chris Urmson of the Self-Driving Car Project, will post on Medium often, which is basically just posting a PR piece, but kind of, because it's on Medium and not on the Google PR site, makes it seem like it's less fluffy. So I think this is an interesting story that they are going to monetize. I don't know what that means. I know that Bill Simmons, he used to have the site on ESPN that was super popular. Then he broke with them. His new site, The Ringer, is going to be one of their premier sites. So I don't know if that premier means they're going to charge for it or it's just going to be extra good content.
I've never understood how Medium kind of came to be this place that when you say, oh, I read this article on Medium. Like, why don't people just say, I read this article? But they don't. They always say, I read this article on Medium, as though Medium gives it some sort of more officialness of where it came from, that's where thought pieces are. How did they cause that to happen?
Well, because it's longer. Yeah. Because I think sometimes people just think if something is longer, then it must be smarter, and that is not necessarily true at all.
Well, in a strange way, Medium really has... I understand exactly where you're coming from, Allison. It has this kind of like mystique behind it, that if it appears on Medium, then it is automatically more important than if it had appeared anywhere else.
Yes.
And I'm not sure exactly where that came from. I mean, like you said, Megan, businesses are, and people inside businesses that we all follow regularly that have so many avenues and platforms to do this on their own, to kind of tout their own platform. They choose Medium for some reason in order to put this out. And as a result, it ends up getting a lot of pickup and a lot of steam and a lot of eyeballs. So, they're obviously doing things right.
Well, there is the idea of, people voted up. So, the best content does rise to the top or, has, I don't think they call it likes. I think they're recommendations is what they call them. So there is something to be said there. If people that you follow on Twitter also like that piece on Medium, you might also like it. So there is that kind of free market, I guess, interest in it. But then sometimes I just get exhausted reading Medium. There was a whole string of like open letters. I don't know if we never talked about any of them, but there was like an open letter by a millennial who worked at Yelp and then got fired for writing this open letter. And then there was an open letter to that open letter by someone in their 20s. And then there was like someone in their 30s. And it's just like, it gives this platform to people where I just want to say like, there needs to be an editorial board, because then those headlines spin around in our media, atmosphere, and everyone thinks they're important because, like we said, well, it was on Medium.
Right. For the longest time, we all felt like we needed a website in order to post these things and to own the content. And now people are posting them to Medium and under a single website that isn't actually theirs. And being perfectly happy putting their content up there. As far as monetization is concerned, they also kind of mentioned in the VentureBeat story that podcasts and video might also kind of be in the near-term future. So you can imagine kind of like pre-roll, I could totally see Medium used as a place to kind of host podcasts if they have that functionality in there. People would, I think they'd clamor to do that.
Yeah.
Just based on eyeballs alone.
Yeah, I think it's partly Evan Williams. He started Blogger, he started Twitter. So everyone was going to follow him wherever he goes. So this is where he is now.
The internet is built on the shoulders of giants, often created by people who simply don't know that their inventions would go on to bring such widespread change to the way that we live lives. And in this case, the ways that we communicate. Ray Tomlinson, who literally created the earliest system of email and chose the @ symbol for use within email addresses, passed away this last Saturday morning. The news was actually first announced by Vint Cerf, one of the founders or the fathers of the internet, on his Twitter feed. And back in the 70s, Ray invented a program for ARPANET for person-to-person kind of communications stored on an external server. And basically he did it while he was kind of fooling around. He was just trying to figure out what to do with ARPANET. And, and the story always kind of goes back to why the @ symbol? Why is the @ symbol, there? And he basically chose it, as he has said before, because it was a symbol that just wasn't used. And so, we could say that Ray saved the @ symbol, but he also chose it because it signifies that somebody is you're responding to someone that is at someplace that is not local. So at another host. So yeah, one of those big, to say the least, big influencers of something that we probably take for granted nowadays.
Yeah, and he was only 74 too. So yeah, I listened to an interview this afternoon. He said, people ask him a lot, did you know what you were doing? And he said, yes, I absolutely knew what I was doing. I didn't know the impact it was going to have, but I knew what I was doing. And I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah. Well, after the break, what last week's crash of a self-driving Lexus tells us about the future of autonomous cars. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode, FreshBooks. If you are a freelancer or if you have a small business and you're feeling stressed out by stacks of receipts, spreadsheet formatting nightmares, and not enough time to deal with any of it, we have a solution that you have been looking for. It's FreshBooks. Now, our friends at FreshBooks have created ridiculously easy-to-use cloud accounting software that makes dealing with your taxes way less taxing. Getting started on FreshBooks could not be easier, even if you're not a numbers person. You can create and send invoices efficiently, plus get paid online quickly with FreshBooks payments. You can have the option to request a deposit in FreshBooks and get paid up front. No more covering costs out of pocket or waiting until the end of a project to get paid. And they've made it incredibly easy for you to track your billable time. FreshBooks recently announced their new EMV, that's chip card-enabled card reader. Now you can easily accept credit cards wherever business takes you quickly and securely with their entirely redesigned iPhone app, plus create beautiful invoices in just seconds. With FreshBooks, you can focus on what you love most, growing your business. You'll wonder why you didn't start with FreshBooks sooner. Getting started is simple, and it's totally free for 30 days. Go to freshbooks.com/TNT, and don't forget to enter Tech News Today in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Start your 30-day free trial today, and we thank FreshBooks for their support of Tech News Today.
All right. Joining us today is Sam Abuelsamid, a senior analyst for smart transportation with Navigant Research. How's it going, Sam?
Hey, Jason and Megan, and hello to you too, Allison.
Hi, Sam.
Very nice to have you here today. We talked a little bit about the Google self-driving car that hit the side of a transit bus a few weeks back. One thing it didn't have going for it is something called V2V communications. I guess let's start with that, Sam. What exactly is V2V?
So V2V stands for vehicle-to-vehicle communications, and it's something that automakers and suppliers and the government have been working on for more than 10 years now. Essentially what it is, it's a mechanism that allows cars and other devices to talk to each other in real time and pass messages back and forth about what they're doing. It's based on Wi-Fi technology. The FCC set aside some spectrum back in the late 90s at 5.9 gigahertz that's dedicated for this. They call it DSRC, Dedicated Short Range Communications. And there's been an ongoing test program, pilot program here in Ann Arbor, Michigan for the last 3 years with about 3,000 vehicles that they're using to test the protocols, the messaging protocols, and the security and everything for what more broadly is known as V2X, or vehicle to external. So it can be vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to pedestrian, vehicle to infrastructure. So you can have cars talking to lights and being warned when the lights are about to change, things like that. So it's a mechanism to provide real-time communications between anything that's on the road.
So when you're taking the case of the autonomous, Google's autonomous car versus the bus, how could that scenario have been different if V2V was implemented?
Well, right now, the way the Google vehicles are set up, they're relying, at least as far as we know, they're relying entirely on the sensors that are on the vehicle, that the LiDAR sensors and radar sensors and cameras on the vehicle that are looking around to see what's going on around the vehicle, to look for pedestrians, look for other vehicles, and make adjustments based on what they're doing. If you added V2V into that mix, what that would allow you to do, what that would allow the vehicle control system to do is be a little more preemptive and have a little bit more indication before the sensors even pick up what's going on, what might be about to happen. What got me thinking about this particular story was I was listening to Twig the other day, and Kevin Marks and Leo and I forget who else was on
Matthew
there.
Ingram.
Matthew Ingram were on there, and I think Kevin was talking about with humans, when you come to a four-way stop, you come to an intersection, humans can detect some intent of what other drivers are going to do through nonverbal communications. I mean, you can signal each other, send hand signals to each other, oh, you go first, or whatever, and with just the sensors on the vehicle, you don't necessarily have that ability to detect intent what's going to happen. So in a scenario like this, like what happened with the Google self-driving car and the bus, if there was V2V communications, the self-driving car could have been aware that the bus driver had not lifted his foot off the gas pedal and was continuing to move and didn't have any intent to stop. And then the self-driving car could have used that signal and said, and stopped itself before it ran into the bus.
Well, I've heard of like in the future, an imagined future where like children and elderly will wear sensors. So like a car would, the LiDAR would be able to detect, okay, that's a small child that might run out into the street at any time, and so I'll behave accordingly. Do you think that's something that are we all going to have sensors as well as pedestrians?
Well, actually, we already carry those sensors, in the form of our smartphones. These smartphones all have Wi-Fi chips in them, and as I mentioned, V2X communications is based on Wi-Fi technology. It's on a dedicated frequency, and companies like Qualcomm have been working for some time on using smartphones to be part of the V2X ecosystem. And a couple of years ago at the ITS World Congress here in Detroit, Qualcomm was demonstrating vehicle-to-pedestrian communications, and it's just a matter of retuning the Wi-Fi radio in the phone to act as a beacon to cars, so the vehicles will know when somebody's about to step out into the road. And Honda did a big demonstration here. With you can put if you have your phone for bicyclists that are riding with their phone, motorcyclists, pedestrians, it makes the vehicles that are driving autonomously, or even still with human drivers, it provides beacons to make the drivers more aware, so you can give the driver an alert that somebody's about to step out into the road, or there's a cyclist that you might not see just up around the corner. So it's something that's really already out there. And basically what Qualcomm and other companies have been working on is just the power management to make sure we don't drain the battery too quickly.
Sam, I had one question. What are they doing in terms of securing that network communication between the devices, between the cars, and between the cell phones and the cars?
That's part of what has been going on in the pilot program. It's the they call it the safety pilot model deployment here in Ann Arbor, where they're testing the security. And basically all of the devices that are part of this ecosystem, so vehicles, infrastructure, the cars, they would all have certificates. So it's a certificate-based security, kind of like SSL, and the certificates would expire over time and gradually be replenished as needed to authenticate that any device that's sending the message is a legitimate device that's part of this network. So the intent is to make sure that you don't have somebody sitting on the side of the road blasting bogus messages out to the cars and providing bogus alerts to drivers. Instead, the system would say, you would see that there's no it's not properly authenticated with a certificate, and it would just ignore those messages.
I can just see the headline now: "Bad certificate authority found."
Yeah, I mean that obviously is a risk, but that's why they've been That's part of why they've been running this test program here for the last 3.5 years.
I'm still a huge fan, because I know I'm not that good of a driver, and I'm actually paying attention most of the time. So I'm a big fan of self-driving cars.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm surprised that V2V, as you're describing, hasn't kind of been part of just how autonomous vehicles were going to work all along. Like, you would think that if they're all connected and they're all working with computers, kind of making all the decisions in the back end, then it makes sense that they would all be connected to each other. Now, GM is launching a V2V capable Cadillac next year.
This year, actually.
Or is it this year? Later this year, sorry.
Yeah.
First automaker to do that. What does this mean for someone buying that car at this point?
Well, initially, the Cadillacs will be the only ones on the road with this capability, but other manufacturers have indicated their intention to also start launching V2V communications in the next couple of years. And I think probably the forecast that we produced last year was that by the mid-2020s, by about 2025, most new vehicles will come equipped with V2X capability. Initially, it'll just be vehicle to vehicle, just sending basic safety messages back and forth. So, for example, if a car going down the road hits a patch of ice, activates the ABS or the traction control, it'll blast out a message saying, hey, there's slippery road here. So other vehicles in the area can get warned before they might hit a patch of black ice. Or similarly, if somebody stomps on the brakes, emergency braking, same sort of thing, they'll send out a message. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in August of 2014 put out a notice of proposed rulemaking to mandate V2V in all new cars, and sometime in the next month or so, we should be hitting the next stage of that, where they'll be putting out what their proposal for the final rule, and probably sometime around 2019 or 2020, we'll probably here in the U.S. at least have a mandate that new vehicles have to be equipped with V2V communications. And then, as I mentioned, with smartphones, because smartphones going forward will probably have this DSRC capability, the V2V enabled, probably starting somewhere around 2017, 2018. For cars that are already on the road, people will hopefully be able to use their phones to get those messages, and if your phone is paired to your infotainment system, it could flash up a message or give you an alert when one of these V2V messages comes in.
Interesting. Definitely a view into the future of what we can probably all assume will be just kind of normal inside our cars. And I could see apps like Waze, that would just be very beneficial for stuff like that. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. Tell people where they can follow all of your work online.
Well, I'm an analyst with Navigant Research, and if you go to navigantresearch.com/blog, you can find our blog where all our analysts post regularly, and I also post stuff on Forbes.com from time to time, such as the story today. And you can also find me on Twitter, Google+, Facebook. Just look for my name, and I'm usually the only one out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on today to talk about this, Sam. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
Take care, Sam. All right, James B. from White Plains, New York, wrote in with an interesting comment about online streaming and choice. He says, what would be great is if the online video streaming services like Netflix or Amazon would offer generated content channels. These channels could be a way to showcase less popular content and diversify the experience on these services. I don't watch any of the new shows, James says, like House of Cards or Transparent, because I have to make the choice to watch them. If I could tune to a station and see what it was playing, I might be compelled to watch. Having the option of controlling what I see is actually limiting what I see. I thought this was fascinating because that's sort of how I feel with Pandora. Like, I like having things just, rather than Apple Music or Spotify and picking, I like it being sent to me. But that, Pandora really knows what I want. I don't want to go back to the days where I just turn on the TV and whatever's there gets...
Episode 5 of House of Cards, season 3. Sure, I'll watch it. Of course, I haven't seen any episodes this season, but I'll watch it. Sure, it's on. I don't know. It sounds, on one hand, it's like, yeah, why aren't they doing that? But on the other hand, it's so close to what we've moved away from.
Yeah.
I suppose I can kind of see it, though. A little carousel of things you may not have seen.
Isn't he saying to see less popular content? So, go to the 1-star stuff? Is that what he means?
Oh,
or maybe the stuff that nobody knows about because it doesn't have, advertising behind it, or it's not on it. I mean, there's so much content out there. I mean, there's so much. Like, you go and there's so many networks. There's so much, and there's so much choice. I totally get that because I see all of that content, and I'm just like, I'm not going to watch anything. It's why McDonald's keeps their menu so small, because it freaks people out to have too many things on the menu, and they leave.
Yeah. I guess what I could see, and I'm not sure how this would work, but something like an HBO model where it's like Netflix TV, let's say, and you go there and they take their content and they just kind of play it by maybe a schedule or maybe not, a little bit of the stuff that's hard to find or, that you wouldn't know about, sprinkled throughout also their shows that you definitely know about. I could totally in a strange way, see this kind of working on the internet. A place where you just park and watch some of Netflix content at random.
I still have a friend who will tell me, "Oh, you need to watch his show. It's on at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays on Channel 4." What is Channel 4?
What is a time to watch?
Right.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. Up next, what does the creator of 4chan have in common with Google+? Turns out a lot. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode of Tech News Today, ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring or you're not sure, where to find the best candidates for the positions that you might have, if you're a business owner, your company's only as good as the people that you do hire. Posting jobs in one place isn't always enough to find the right candidates, the quality candidates. And if you're short-staffed, that doesn't leave you with very much time to post to all of the job sites. And as you know, there are tons of job sites out there. The fact of the matter is it takes serious time to put the feelers out there to find the right people for your positions. And guess what? You're already super busy. So both of those kind of together create a perfect storm of chaos that just leaves you without the people you need in the roles you have doing the work that'll make you a cut above the rest. You need an easier way to find the right people, and that's ZipRecruiter.com. You can post to 100 plus job sites with one single click and be instantly matched to candidates from over nearly 6 million resumes. You just post one time. That's all it takes. Within 24 hours, you can watch the candidates for that position just kind of roll into ZipRecruiter's interface. Super easy to use. They make it very easy to kind of filter through all of the options that are coming in. ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it now for free. Getting the right people for your company is incredibly important. Scott, who's a happy ZipRecruiter client, said, "The recruiting process used to be so painful. Before, I'd post to several places, get a million resumes, but only a few responses from actual qualified candidates. It was torture. But with ZipRecruiter, we post once, and we get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of our best employees using ZipRecruiter." So today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. All you got to do is go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today.
We got the news today that 4chan's founder, Christopher Poole, is now a Google employee. Joining us to talk about what this means is Natt Garun from the Next Web. Welcome.
Hi, Megan.
It's good to talk to you. So tell us a little bit about what 4chan was and why it's so interesting that the creator of 4chan is now working for Google.
4chan is sort of the very first social network. We can almost say it's very, if you ever go to the website, it's very Web 1.0. The website is very basic. It's not fancy at all. And it started out as a message, an image sharing board where people shared photos of, it's kind of like Reddit where people shared images or memes or just different facts, or it became a gossip site almost. And it got a lot of trouble over the years because it does gain a little controversy. There were some inappropriate photos being shared sometimes, or sensitive information got shared on the website at times. And it's just it's a really great case study for a lot of people building a social network on the things that can go wrong and go so right on a social network. So it was interesting because Christopher Poole, he created a website when he was 15 years old. So, just your average typical young entrepreneur story who created a website, and it became an influential part of the internet culture. And he retired from 4chan after 12 years as of January of last year. And a lot of people were wondering what he was going to do next. And now we have our answer.
So do we know what he's going to be doing at Google? Do we have any hints?
Not officially, but after he made his announcement, Google's Bradley Horowitz, who was the VP of Google+, and he's the VP of Streams, Photos, and Sharing, congratulated him. So it's a hint probably that he will be joining the Photos team, which makes sense given that Poole has experience with image board sharing.
Well, I think Business Insider spotted like a post on 4chan that said he was going to be the product manager on Photos, but I don't know if that, you can't.
Of course.
It was anonymous, as most things, as 4chan is. So do you think, you gave a good description of 4chan, a very, do you think that they get a bad rap? I mean, when you really hear about it, generally, it's just like, oh, it's full of trolls and hate and naked pictures of people that, their boyfriends posted. Do you really think it's more than that?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people go to it because it's such a unique community. There's people with a very specific type of humor, or a lot of educated people go on it to talk about things that maybe they want to discuss but remain anonymous. So it is known for some of the worst qualities because that's the stuff that kind of makes it into the media. But I think a lot of educated people really do go to 4chan to kind of just have a discussion or check up on things, or maybe even A/B test something that they're working on and kind of getting a reaction of what the internet thinks about it.
It's interesting to me that Moot, as I will call him going forward, is choosing to work with Google. He's said some pretty anti-Google things in the past. Definitely had some choice words for Google in the past while working, with 4chan. Not to mention just the fact that Canvas was interesting, but it really didn't go anywhere. So, but hey, I guess experience is experience. And on top of that, he's such an interesting entrepreneur in this kind of world. For him to kind of go into Google in what seems just like so non-entrepreneurial, I would have imagined that he would follow 4chan up with something interesting and new that's from him. Apparently, he has a lot to gain from working for Google. I just would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the commenters from what I've seen on the internet have called him kind of a sellout, which I think is really funny. Yeah, I think it's really funny. But he has a lot of experience with what it takes to build a community, whether or not it's a positive or a negative one. And I think Google Plus could really use that kind of skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, to be called a sellout before he's even 30. I don't even think he's 30 yet.
He can sell out like 5 or 6 times before he retires at this point.
Right. I mean, because he actually sold 4chan a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But
a lot of people haven't been very happy with that decision either.
Right. But then to just get a job to hopefully do something that you're already showing you can do, I don't necessarily think that's selling out.
Yeah.
I mean,
so Allison, I'll throw this question to you. Can Moot turn Google Plus around? Go.
That's going to be interesting. I've been such a fan of Google Plus, and yet I can just feel Facebook sucking me away from it.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the Google Plus communities, and I still am, and we have a really vibrant community on my for my show. But I opened it up to Facebook, and it was just this massive amount of energy and people talking. And I feel like the mass of Facebook is so big now, and now I've added to that mass, so I've increased the pull that I don't know if Google Plus can pull back from it. But I still love the communities over there. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I go for. I don't tend to read the general feed, but going to the communities is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, they do seem to need some help over there, I think. I've had trouble understanding Google Plus, I'll admit it.
There was a big redesign, I don't know how many months ago at this point.
Not a fan.
4 months ago. Yeah, I think by and large, and I mean, I will admit, I've been a huge Google Plus user for years. And through no intent on my part, ever since the redesign, my use has really dropped off a cliff. And I'm not sure if it's directly related, though I just don't have the same feeling going there. So I suppose, whether Moot ends up at Google Plus specifically, or he ends up in the photos category, which I almost feel like he's probably more qualified for Google Plus as like a, kind of a long shot kind of deal, like, help us make Google Plus something really that's the word. That's the better word than long shot. Thank you.
I'll help you with those football things.
Thank you. A slam dunk, where they throw the football across the... Anyways, I think you could probably maybe do a little bit better for just kind of being, the solution to the problem that they obviously have, which is that they really need to kind of refocus on Google Plus and make it something special again. Maybe he can do that. I don't know.
Well, maybe if everybody was anonymous, like on 4chan, then it would certainly get a lot of views.
Yes. They keep going back and forth on this whole anonymous thing, not anonymous with Google Plus. So I don't know.
Well, Natt, you are a writer at The Next Web. Tell everyone what your beat is and what kind of things you write about over there.
I'm a U.S. editor there, so I manage the team, and I write mostly about web culture and consumer apps and gadgets. And you can follow me on thenextweb.com or via Twitter at NattGarun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
All right, TNT's fan of the day is Nick Cotter at _another_nerd. That looks a lot better than it sounds. On Twitter, who says, quote, working the late shift and listening to TNT makes cleaning a messy store a breeze. And that is a lot of mess, which translates to a lot of TNT. So therefore, I approve.
Right.
Whatever gets you through the night. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, and use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it. Maybe if you post it to 4chan, we won't find it. It's just because we don't look there, but there you go.
Oh, yeah. And I love that he was doing his, work. Because I think the more chores you have, the more you can listen to Tech News Today. So
yes, I like it.
I like it. Coming up, the return of Peeple. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of this episode, the Ring Video Doorbell. We're all familiar with the sound of a doorbell. It means, there it is. It means a package is being delivered or friends are coming over for dinner. But sometimes it might mean that someone is about to rob you. Over 95% of home break-ins happen during the day, and burglars almost always start by ringing your doorbell to see if someone's home before they march in there and steal all of your possessions. With the Ring Video Doorbell, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. Ring's advanced motion detection alerts you even if someone doesn't ring the doorbell, which is great. I have it on mine at home so I can see when my kids come home when they get dropped off because they don't usually ring the doorbell, but I can see that they're home, which is great. And I can see when the dog's running around. I love the motion sensing capabilities of my Ring. With the Ring Video Doorbell, you can talk to delivery people and keep an eye on your package. You can talk to your kids if they're the ones at home. If someone tries to mess with your package, you'll get an instant alert and an HD video of the whole thing. It's like having a neighbor keep an eye on your house 24/7. Installing Ring only takes a few minutes. It works with either your current wiring or a built-in rechargeable battery. So put your mind at ease and protect your home with the Video Doorbell. Time Magazine and USA Today named one of their top 10 gadgets. Go to ring.com/TNT for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/TNT. With Ring, you are always home.
All right. So remember how last year there was an app called Peeple that was announced that would allow people to give a rating to other people, whether they used Peeple or not. And it was dubbed by internet people as the Yelp for people. And how even before it was released, people lashed out against it. And then news of Peeple all but washed up, leaving people to wonder if Peeple was ever a real thing or not. Well, it's real. And today, the people behind Peeple launched Peeple for iOS. They made some changes. Sorry, I had to do it.
Can we just start with the name? If you haven't seen it, it's Peeple, P-E-E-P, as in peeping Tom, as in creepily peeping on other people.
Okay. That way they know that there were two different peoples that I was saying there. It's a good point. It's opt-in now. So the way it was before is that anybody could be rated. Well, let's just back up. It didn't exist before. It was literally just announced. And based on the announcement of its existence, people just lost their minds about it, basically. So they made some changes to the rollout, and of course now it's live. It's now opt-in, so you choose to take part. Ratings have been removed. Instead, you have recommendations of people, of users. Users can select which ratings actually appear on their profiles. Users can opt out of the date. There's a dating area, apparently, and you can opt out of that. But Facebook login is required, so that ensures that there's no anonymity to hide behind. So they've tried to make some changes here to make people happy, although they do have the Truth license, which is kind of a weird name. It's a premium service that's going to roll out here. It's not available yet, but it enables people who are paying that premium price of $1 per month to see everything that is said about its members, whether they choose to show it or not. So I don't know. I know, Megan, how you feel about this. Allison, I'm very curious to know how you feel about Peeple.
Well, I have two major points. The first one is, so if you pay $1 to get the truth, if you don't pay $1, do you get the falsehoods or do you get a dare? I just don't know which way that would go. But, this isn't going to be any problem at all because people are generally kind on the internet. They're respectful to each other. They always try to say the best possible thing to bring out, humanity. This should be fine.
Well, also, okay, so I have the opportunity to rate Leo Laporte right now, who just happens to be my boss. I don't have anything nasty to say about him, but if I did, would I do it? No, I wouldn't. So, like, you know, it's just...
It's
I
tied
don't
to your
know.
identity, for one.
Right. So I guess you could use it for dating. That's one thing. I mean, Leo pointed out today, like you can say you're not interested in dating, so that is marked off. So I can't see what his previous dates might have said about him. So I can only choose professional or personal, and then I can either give him a happy face or a neutral face or a negative face. I'll give him a happy face, and then I can write a message. So I don't know how useful. You know, it's like there is a good thing about anonymous feedback. There's advantages to anonymous feedback in a controlled way. I mean, but
this isn't anonymous, right?
no,
It's
this
a
isn't.
Facebook
I mean, yeah,
login
that's what I'm saying.
required.
Yeah, I'm saying like there is. I wish there was a way to actually have anonymous feedback like that, because then you could see. But I don't know.
But then you know what you get when you go full on anonymous in a situation like that. You're basically asking people to tell you the worst of the worst.
I know.
You know?
I'm always looking for this utopia of anonymous
Yeah.
feedback that I've never found before. But
Yeah, I don't know if it ends up working like that. At least history has shown on the internet it doesn't. This just reminds me a lot of actually what we've talked about, and a number of times on the show. The once known as stolen app, now known as famous, and yeah, it just kind of seems to keep bubbling up. Like, do we or do we not want apps that tell other people how we feel about them in a public fashion? I'm not sure. Like people keep creating services around it because they think we do, but then everybody loses their mind about it. So I don't know. I don't know what that means, but there we go.
yeah, I'm not dating, so I don't really know what I would use this for. Like I'm not. I mean, I guess if I were hiring someone, that would be. But again, that's. People don't often say the honest truth about people that they work with. And so that's often when you're hiring someone, it's difficult to find that, find,
It would be hard to trust anything in this app, at least as it is right now, for the purposes of hiring. Absolutely.
Right.
I certainly wouldn't trust it.
I have a dollar that says somebody writes "you're fat." That's what they always write, right?
Right. Yes. It's constructive criticism. Yeah.
I did a review of a recorder of the Zoom H2, and I've gotten just tons of great feedback on this goofy little video I made. And one of them just said, "You're fat." I wasn't even in the video. What's your point?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
YouTube.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. So people, I don't know. I didn't even want to install it, but I did. And so it's there. So.
And now you'll uninstall it, I
Yeah, I
guess.
probably will.
I'm guessing anyways.
Yes. Well, Allison, thank you so much for joining us. What are some things you've been working on that you can tell us about?
Probably one of the coolest things we're doing right now, like you mentioned at the beginning, I have a couple of podcasts. One of them is called Chit Chat Across the Pond. Every other week, Bart Bouchatz from Ireland is doing a series with me he's calling Programming by Stealth. And he's starting by working through web technology. So we started with this very simple HTML, and we've gotten into some CSS, and we're going to be moving into JavaScript next. And it's a way of him sneaking up on me, and he's going to get me into some real programming eventually. And he's done these series before. He did one called Taming the Terminal that was amazing. But yeah, that one you're just showing on screen says it's yet more CSS. In this one, he taught me how to make little bullet points that are piggy faces. So yeah, there's the piggy face on screen. That is not what he wanted me to do, but that's what I took away from the lesson. But it's really cool. If you go over to podfeet.com and you do a look for the Programming by Stealth series, I think we're on episode 10 of X, and I think I'm actually going to create a separate feed. So if people want to binge all 10 of those at once without the other chit chat stuff, they still can.
That's excellent stuff. NosillaCast at podfeet.com and all the other stuff that you're doing at podfeet.com.
Yay.
Yay. Allison, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks a lot for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. We'll have you back soon.
Take care.
And now whenever I hear the word people, it's like my mind is reprogrammed. I hear the other people. I need to stop saying the word people.
Whenever I hear the word people, it's always like, it's people, like the Soylent Green.
Oh, okay. Very well could be.
You're eating people.
Tomorrow's guest will be another person, Becky Worley. We're welcoming back to the show. Always great to have Becky on. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv, or you can leave us a short voicemail to TNT Show. And you can find us on Twitter. We are at Tech News Today TV.
And if you want to anonymously rate us, you can on iTunes or probably other places as well. Leave us a review if you would like on iTunes, if you still use that. You can subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT and get our episodes in whatever podcast catcher is your favorite. You can also subscribe to the Twit newsletter at twit.tv/newsletter. And I am on Twitter at Megan Morrone.
And I am at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Anthony Nielsen, and all the folks who help us produce this show every single day, except for Saturdays and Sundays. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.